The night outside thickened into a quiet veil, yet inside the cafe, the fragile warmth between June and Soo-yeon began to bloom with every heartbeat they shared. Their embrace lingered, not as a simple touch, but as a desperate reclaiming of all the years they had lost. June could feel her trembling, the subtle rhythm of her breath against his chest, and with it came the weight of 1,000 unspoken words pressing against his lips. He wanted to tell her of the nights he had walked alone with his camera, of the way every empty street seemed to echo her laughter, of the countless times he had lifted his lens only to lower it again, because no frame was worth capturing without her presence in it. But the words tangled in his throat, breaking instead into a quiet whisper. "I thought I'd forgotten how to live without you, but I never did." Soo-yeon closed her eyes, her tears soaking into the fabric of his coat, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to let go of the mask she had so carefully worn. She thought of the lonely evenings in her room, clutching the faded photograph he had given her, whispering into the silence as though her words could travel across the distance to reach him. She thought of the weight of expectation pressed upon her shoulders, the roles she had played for her family and society, even as her own heart had cracked beneath the strain. Now, in his arms, all of that felt as though it were dissolving into the night air, leaving behind only the truth she had carried all along, that her soul had always belonged to him. The cafe around them seemed to recede, the clinking of cups and low chatter dimming into a faraway hum, until it felt as though they stood in a world carved only for two. June pulled back just enough to see her face, his hand brushing away a tear with a gentleness that made her heart ache all the more. "You're here," he said softly, as if reassuring himself that she was not a dream. Soo-yeon nodded, her lips trembling. "I was always here," she answered, "even when I couldn't be." Their eyes locked, and in that fragile connection lay both devastation and renewal, the acknowledgement of the scars they carried, and the fragile hope of beginning again. Outside, the cherry blossoms had begun to scatter in the wind, each petal drifting like a memory released, and June thought of the nights he had stood beneath them alone, imagining her laughter in their fall. Now, with her by his side, he saw not sorrow, but promise in the delicate rain of pink, as if the world itself had been waiting for this reunion. The silence between them deepened, but it was no longer the silence of absence. It was the silence of recognition, of two souls finding home again. Soo-yeon leaned forward, her forehead resting lightly against his, and in that closeness, she felt the strength she had thought she had lost return to her. "Do you think it's too late?" she asked, her voice barely audible. June's eyes softened, his breath unsteady but sure. "For us, time was never an enemy," he whispered. "It only reminded me how much I needed you." Her tears spilled freely then, not of grief, but of release, as though every season of waiting, every night of longing, had finally reached its end. And as the cafe lights flickered gently overhead, they stood entwined, no longer bound by the shadows of their past, but illuminated by the fragile, enduring glow of a love that had survived everything but silence.